Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Calling the meeting to order at, gosh, I have 6 p.m. exactly. And Jessica, would you please perform roll call?
Absolutely. Councillor Joe Piscineri did convey he would be absent tonight. So Brittany De Alicante.
Present.
Barry Lind.
Here.
Michael Bean.
I'm here.
Jonathan Hayes.
Here.
Carla Berg.
Here.
Terry Dillon.
I'm here.
Adam Jenkins.
Here.
Jenna McCauley.
Here.
Eric Adams.
Here.
Okay, roll call complete.
Perfect. Thank you. Good turnout tonight. Thank you again, everyone. Want to take a moment and see if there's any, if you've had a chance to look at the minutes from last month's meeting, any corrections or adjustments that need to be made?
You won't believe it, but this is the second month that I've had no corrections to report. Thank you, Jessica. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. So then, Terry, would you make a motion if you're up for it to approve these minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All in favor, you can say hi, yes, or raise your hand. Thank you. I think that looks unanimous. Perfect. Thank you very much. At this time, then, we will take business from the audience. I'll read the script that there is for that, and then we'll jump into that. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded. The committee will listen to your comments, but will not respond to public comment until the committee response portion of the meeting agenda. Meeting minutes will be taken by staff, forwarded to city manager and city council. Members of the public can always send written testimonies to the committee or city council. As we begin our meeting tonight, I would like to ask members of the audience to please keep yourself on mute until you're called to provide public testimony. Public testimony will allow speakers 2 minutes each for a total of 20 minutes. If you're joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak either of those times, please use the raised hand feature to make the request. You will be called upon when it's your turn to speak. Please identify your name, Springfield ward number, and the subject you would like to speak about. For the people calling in by phone only, you are in listen mode only and cannot be called upon. With that, do we have any business from the audience?
Can I ask,
It's time.
Jessica, how many people do we have watching us tonight?
Just 2 this evening.
Oh, okay.
So, but no one has raised their hand at this point.
Very good. Then I think we can move on from the committee response to the next item of business. If it's okay, we have a couple of guests that are jumping in to help us tonight. And if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to assert to the chief and his business and then our other committee business. And I assume that'll be okay. So I'm going to move ahead and do that. And at this time, if Mary Bridget is with us, and she's a city attorney, and she's going to share with us tonight just any thoughts that she has as we've asked for her input, and then we could ask her any questions that we might have.
Barry, I'm going to step in here. I am still working on getting Mary Bridget connected. So we do have our guest in Sergeant Mike Massey. Would it be acceptable to shift to his portion of the policy presentation? Is that okay?
You bet. So we'll jump in then to the 2 policy review that we're going to look at tonight. If Mike would take the lead on that, that would be great. Thank you.
There we go. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Did you guys have any questions about the policies themselves before I kind of go over my review and kind of moving forward and what the future plan of these two policies are?
Adam, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just curious, and maybe it's in some other policy or discuss something else. And I know this is a training, not a certification, but do you guys have any sort of pass-fail criteria for any of it? Or these trainings just purely information that's given to them, and whether they receptive to it or not is different?
Yeah, the policies are kind of two different. One is basically the required training that they must do to upkeep their certificates. And such ones that would be pass-fail would be like the firing range, firearms training. That's definitely a pass-fail. The DPSST, which holds all the police officer certifications, require police agencies and officers every year to have either 8 hours of what they call use of force training and or firearms training, and then 1 hour of ethics training. And then every 3 years, they have to do their mental health and CIT and CPR training. So some of those could be pass-fail as well. Is there another question? Is there another one?
Brittany.
Yeah, I was wondering, so I see that the like complete records of all the trainings are in like a part of the process, which is great. I was just curious if that information is publicly available, or if people would be curious to know, would that be like a public records request process?
Yeah, so for all of our police officers, we report their trainings through the DPSST Academy. We fill out a form and we send it to them, and they also keep record of it. They call it a transcript. Anybody can go onto their website and type it in and see what trainings we have. So it's totally public record at that platform as well.
Any other questions? Michael.
I was reading the training policy, and is there a list of the essential trainings for the year that the officers can see? So at the beginning of the year, they know that they have like 7 mandatory trainings. I noticed in the policy, it's pretty brief and pretty lightweight. And I just wondered if they had essential or ad hoc. Can they request trainings?
Yeah, the essential and the required ones are every year, like the DPSST ones that I mentioned. They have to complete the 8 hours of use of force or firearms training and the 1 hour of ethics. Every year they have to do that no matter what. And then we always try to do other trainings as well that fit current trends or anything else we can try to follow. And COVID was kind of had a problem with that, so we had to get a little creative by doing online trainings. But historically, we exceed the bare minimums trainings. Like so for 2021, they only require 9 hours. We did 23 hours worth of training during a COVID shutdown time, which is pretty good.
That's great. So there's not a list of the essential training, so just use of force and ethics.
That's the list by the state of Oregon. And then we try to do vehicle operations, crisis intervention, mental health. Then once we always hit the required ones, and then we always kind of try to have our standard ones as well, which will always cover de-escalation, mental health, and other items like that.
So if we wanted mental health as an essential yearly review training, would we have to go to the legislature so Oregon would mandate it, or is that something the department would look at? Or
they currently have it at a 3-year cycle with the academy, but we try to do extra.
Okay. So 3-year cycle at the academy, do the officers go back every 3 years to the academy, or?
No, we train in-house people to be crisis intervention, basically train the trainers, and then they put on the training course as well. Thought out, or if they're not available, or if they need to get updated, we can hire people to have them come in and do it as well.
Okay, I guess I'm confused. So the officers get the mental health training when they go through the academy, and if it happens to come up.
They get it at the academy, but then every 3 years to keep their certificate, they always have to.
Okay, every 36 months. Okay, now I understand.
There we go.
I'm a big proponent of mental health training and de-escalation.
Jonathan,
Yes, sir. I was just curious if with the new that accreditation process that the department is going through, is that going to change your minimum standards as far as training?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up when kind of dissecting these. That's also gonna probably incorporate a lot of these policies. I think one of you touched on how one of them was just kind of vague. To be honest, that's totally true, and I agree with that. A lot of these can probably be combined. There's like 6 or 7 of these training type policies that are just kind of out there. It can completely be put into one, and that's the chief and I have talked about. That's going to be definitely a topic for the accreditation to get that in there, to make it more organized, and then we can on our own. There's different levels of required stuff for the accreditation. We can add whatever we want in-house as mandatory trainings as well. We don't. You have to follow the DPSST minimum, but in-house the chief of police can mandate extra mandatory as well.
Copy that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief,
Yeah, just to kind of touch on that, like Sergeant Massey said, there's the basic number of hours that we have to have every year, every 3 years, whatever the cycle we're on. But we strive to far exceed that. And that's largely dependent on a variety of different factors. Like, just for example, and I'll talk about it when I get to the updates, but like the 2 shootings we had in the last 2 weeks, actually been more than that, but the one everybody knows about in Texas and in Buffalo. I mean, that's causing us to do a wholesale review of our entire active threat response. And along with that is we're probably going to identify gaps where we need to provide additional training to our officers. And we'll do that this year, and we'll look at what the last time we did that was. That's just one example of the type of thing that kind of comes up every year that we might have to ramp up training in a certain area. That might not be something that we do every year, but there's just different things that come up that we have to do that exceed the standard DPSST training. And they come up, one example is like de-escalation training. We're in a settlement agreement with the Kinney family based on that shooting, and we have to provide de-escalation training every year. And so we provide some level of de-escalation training to our officers every single year. And that's not something that is mandated by DPSST and their requirements, but that's something that we are doing every year for the department.
I just wanted to also add, I know we have a good relationship between fire and PD, but we have a ton of props that kind of focus on active violent incident training. So like we can make it as realistic as you want. We have tons of things like that. So as you're developing the training programs, don't forget about ESF as a resource. We're more than happy to accommodate that and incorporate that into our training. We can all learn from each other. So.
Yeah, we did one about 5 years ago at Austin Stadium.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the best ones we've done. Obviously COVID came and shut a lot of stuff down, but we're ready to get up and rolling on more hands-on training and less online training for sure. So we are definitely wanting to have a partnership with the fire department. And basically utilize our resources to produce the best product we can for training from both sides. Anybody else? Did you want me to go through and just brief on what these are? I mean, they really, one of the training programs, actually the career in service training one, to summarize that one up. The reason why it's vague is because it basically covers what the DPSST requires us to do, to be honest with you. And it talks about how Also review of this policy. The chief and I have talked a lot about how we keep finding my Office of Professional Standards keeps popping up in different policies that I didn't even know my office name was in some of them. And I'm super surprised if I did a search for my office name in these policies, how many of them keep popping up in here. So part of not only just reviewing these for the trainings, it's also incorporated us to look at my office, what other policies are out there that involve my office that I may or may not even know. I know these duties I'm supposed to have, but I didn't know it was really incorporated in this policy because a lot of it, these two kind of seem redundant of each other. The one career in service training covers basically requirements for the DPSST. And the other one, the training programs, is more of outside of that parameter, ad hoc ones, extra trainings that people want to go to, association trainings, and the retention of those as well. Chief?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that in the accreditation process that we're in, that is forcing us to go through every single policy in general order that we have here at the PD. And there are hundreds of policies, and I think a lot of them are very, very outdated. And so part of this accreditation process is to go through every single one, revamp them, streamline them, get them up to date so they actually reflect best practices. And like he said, this one is basically describes the DPSST requirements, but yet it doesn't say that in here. And this is a policy that needs to say we will meet the DPSST requirements every year. So that's just one of the things that by you bringing this to our attention is something that we'll modify as we move forward. But there's a lot more of these that we're going to have to go through and improve on.
Was there any other questions on it? Go ahead.
I noticed that we have somebody in charge of trainings who tracks that. I see in the actual minimal policy that it's up to the officer if they miss the training to go seek out somebody and then arrange for another training. And, you know, we have found that, I don't know, within the police department, but, you know, with therapists and counselors that we need someone to herd the cats. So who does that? Human resources, or is it up to the officer?
It's done through here. So if you miss a mandatory training, it's documented in here. If you miss a mandatory training, they shall notify their bureau commander, which would be like a lieutenant, of the reasoning of that. And then we kind of make a side. We just had a firearms training. I know three guys didn't make it to it. So those 3 guys, I know I was notified couldn't make it. So I have them on a list.
Oh,
And I'm constantly on the firearms committee to make sure that they can make it up. Or is it one that they really don't have to make up because they've met their hours with maybe they're on like a tactical team, they've done other firearms and they've already met it. So I can kind of triage it that way as well. But it definitely, we don't just leave it up to them and then have them try to find someone in the hallway. They have to get permission, notify the bureau commander, then it comes to me, and then we do track that as well.
well, maybe that's for those policies that
Yeah,
can get updated with some evidence-based best practices.
I agree.
Okay.
Any other questions? And I apologize, my internet is going in and out, so I'm not leading very well. I apologize. Any other questions? Okay.
Can I put in an editorial comment? I don't want to dominate, but I just want to say, I think training is the most important thing and one of the critical parts of the Springfield Police Department. And it should be, as the chief said, given the upgrades and the attention, because with adequate training and reviews, we'll just get a better product. So I hope to see a much better, robust policy.
Very good. Brittany.
I did just think of one more question. I'm wondering what is your all's timeline in getting this policy updated, and will we get a chance to look at it when it's revised?
I'm going to pass that to the chief. He's directed one of the lieutenants to basically do the accreditation, and it's going to fall under his project of that. So I'll let him answer to that one.
That's good.
Yeah, I can't give you the exact timeline, but we have begun the accreditation process, and our lieutenant that's assigned to that, Lieutenant Crawley, I mean, he is going through these policies one at a time. He sends it out to the entire command team. We all weigh in, we'll meet, make adjustments, and we're gonna have to do that for every single policy. This is probably gonna be a process that's gonna take us, a year, maybe a little
Easy.
longer, maybe a little less, but this is a big undertaking, but it has to be done. So to give you a timeline on this exact policy, I don't know, because frankly, there's other ones related to, force and other things that are going to be higher towards the top of the list. But just like every policy in the department, we're going to go through it and update it.
It took us 2 years to go through each one.
Yeah, maybe I'm being overly optimistic with 1 year. It's a big job.
That's huge. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, thank you for sharing and updating us on those policies. Jessica, is Mary Bridget with us yet?
Actually, she did provide me an update and she's unexpectedly unable to attend this evening.
Okay,
She had a priority family matter come up. So
Okay.
I was actually trying to review some of our correspondence so in what I could conveyed was what your questions were. And so I was trying to take a look at that and see if there's anything that I could pass on that was general that was helpful. I'm going to be honest. I think what I'll do is if there's something that can be forwarded that is written that might be helpful for reference purpose, I'll make sure to forward that, package it and forward it out to the committee. And because what I do find is she's referencing certain council operating policies and procedures that are actually available, but that she's just directing us towards certain sections that she anticipated elaborating on. So at least we could get a starting point and then maybe reschedule her attendance.
so would it be helpful, Jessica, if those on the committee have questions that we direct them to you and you would forward them on?
Happy to.
Okay.
Apologies for that. And she
No.
was apologetic on that.
Certainly. Okay. Then then why don't we move back to business from the Springfield Police Department? And Chief, if you want to take that on, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a number of updates. I'm going to try not to take too much of your time, but we've been very busy. We have a lot of things coming up, so I'll just dive right in. First thing I wanted to address is the thing that I mentioned a little bit ago, the shooting in Texas. This is a horrible, horrible tragedy. I don't think any of us really know what's going on, what actually happened there. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of emotion, and it's a horrible tragedy no matter how you look at it. And we are paying very close attention so we can learn from that. If there were mistakes made, we want to make sure we don't make those same kind of mistakes. So like I said, we're pulling together our entire team and doing a deep dive into our active threat response. That's what training have we had? What training do we need? What equipment do we have? What equipment do we need? And as a piece of that, over the last couple months, we've been training, fortunately, all of our officers in tactical emergency casualty care. So every one of our officers has gone through this tactical emergency casualty care, which is designed to stop life-threatening hemorrhaging. And so in addition to that training, just last week, we rolled out, we call them IFAC kits, the first aid kits. There's one in every single patrol car. It's strapped to the headrest of every patrol car. Every kit has multiple tourniquets, chest seals, wound packing materials. And these are all things that the officers have been trained in. So if we were to get some kind of a mass casualty event, we have kits in every single car that they will bring in with them so we can render life-saving aid as fast as possible, because there may be situations where it's such that fire is just not going to be able to come in right away. And we want to equip our officers to do absolutely everything they can as quickly as possible. So that's something that we just rolled out last week. But again, we're going to do a deep dive into our response. And I'm going to make this a priority in the months ahead, that if we identify gaps in our response or our capabilities, that those are going to rise to the top of the list for me as far as their training, because we have limited training time every year. But this is something we can't we can't not be prepared for. And so I just want everybody to understand how important that is to us and know that we're taking this very seriously. Any questions on that in particular? Some recent events that we were just involved in, the NAMI walk was on the 21st, and we participated in that, which is a good event. Our very own Jessica Crawford, Lieutenant Crawley, they presented to the Rotary Club recently with Jess speaking all about the kind of behind the scenes portions of the police department that keep it running that she oversees. And I got some very good kudos on Jessica's presentation. They really appreciated her time there. So thanks for representing us, Jess. We are at the 1-year anniversary of our body worn camera program. And so to date, we have taken we've captured about 30,000 videos. There's approximately 87 hours of video captured per day, with about 2,600 videos captured per week. And the average video is about 15 minutes long. So, I mean, think about that, 87 hours of video captured a day, and we retain all of that, and the data storage and everything else and all the retention stuff that goes along with that. It is a pretty massive project, but it's going well. And again, that's a project that Jessica had a big role in, and continues to have a role in to this day. And it seems to be going very well. I mean, the community survey that we did recently, we asked the respondents if body worn cameras made them feel better about SPD, and 70% of the respondents said, yes, body worn cameras make us feel better. So that just in and of itself shows, I think it's a huge trust building tool, and perception wise, the community is very supportive of it. And it's an excellent training tool, as well as accountability for our officers and the people that are captured on video. I mean, we've had complaints where people allege a certain thing, an officer treated them a certain way, and we go back and review the video. And there's been times when we watch the video and what we were told is entirely untrue, and that's something that we never would have known before. So the video, the camera does provide an excellent level of accountability for everyone. On Memorial Day, I had the privilege of going and presenting at the memorial service at Veterans Plaza across from Mackenzie Willamette. That was an outstanding event, and it was truly, I was honored to get that opportunity. It was a great group of folks, and anytime we get the opportunity to kind of recognize our fallen service members and the contributions they've made to this country and our way of life, I think we owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to them. And so we're going to take every opportunity we can to recognize what they've done for us. And I think, unfortunately, far too often, a lot of us take that for granted, the sacrifices that have been made. So that was a great event, and we really had it was really great that they asked us to be a part of that. We just added a section to our website. Well, let's back up a little bit. Zach, who I introduced last meeting, I think he's our new public information coordinator. He has really dove in head first with our social media, and almost more importantly, our website, because our website was, I think, lacking, to say the least. And he is just really ramping that up as far as the graphics, the presentation, the branding, and more importantly, the ability to navigate around on it and find valuable information for folks. He just added a section that's basically like, how do I section? And he added things like, how do I, make complaints or commendations? How do I report abandoned vehicles? How do I report a bias crime or hate crime or graffiti? Or how can I request officers to be at an event? He added this whole section so anybody can get on the website and kind of get their questions answered, send us messages, provide feedback. But that's very much appreciated on Zach's part. And I think it's a great step forward and kind of build that transparency and good lines of communication with the community. On the calendar coming up that we know about, I've got a long list of things, but just a few of them. On June 6th, we're doing an active shooter presentation for part of a group at Riverbend Hospital. On the 10th, there's the Guy Lee Safety Patrol ceremony. On the 11th, there's the Children's Celebration at Island Park. On the 18th, we have the big canine competition. I think it's been 2 or 3 years since we had one, and I'm told that's a big hit here that can draw, upwards of 2,000 or 3,000 people. So that's going to be a great event at Springfield High School, and it's free. So spread the word around that. There's a Father's Day car show we're going to be a part of. Hero for a Day at the Bob Kiefer Center we're going to be a part of. The Law Enforcement Torch Run to support Special Olympics is on the 29th. And we're gonna have an SPD open house in September, on September 24th. And so we're really looking forward to that event as well. And there's a number of other events that are kind of in the, they're not solidified yet, but our community information, or our community outreach coordinator, Lily Wick, has really got a lot of great ideas. She's got a bunch of stuff on the plate. And one of the things she's putting together is just walk with the chief. We're going to just have different times around town where we're just going to put a time and a location. And I'm going to be there with a few other folks. And if people want to meet up and just walk the neighborhoods with us, we're going to start doing that on a regular basis. So it's a time to just get out, see the neighborhoods, chat with folks, see firsthand right there, boots on the ground, like they can point out issues to us. And I think it's just a way that we can connect on a more personal, real level. And so we're really going to strive to do that. We're going to do that in every part of Springfield. We're going to go to places probably that, you know, you don't see very often, see police just walking around certain neighborhoods, and we just want to be there and kind of build relationships. We're also going to do some stuff, you know, along the lines of coffee with a cop, but rather than show up at a coffee shop, we're just going to go set up a table somewhere in some part of town and give out free coffee, or whether it's popsicles or whatever. And it might be in some apartment complex parking lot somewhere, or who knows where it might be, but we'll post that on our social media. We'll show up and just try to go meet people where they are and build relationships, and hopefully have a good time. National Night Out is August 2nd. And one of the bigger things that we've got coming up is the World Games. So July 15th through the 24th. So that's mostly in Eugene, but the marathon comes into Springfield, I think on the 17th and 18th. That's a huge event. I mean, we have canceled all vacation for the entire police department for that whole 10 or 12 days or how longer it is. There's going to be officers from agencies outside of Eugene, Springfield coming to help. It's a super exciting, neat event that everybody's super excited about, but there's going to be, I mean, I've heard estimates of, you know, well in excess of 20, 30,000 people that are going to be in the area during those 10 days, like trying to find a hotel room or eat at a restaurant and all that. I mean, it's going to be a very, very busy time around for us, and it's an exciting time, but it's also going to be a tremendous amount of work on our part, but we're excited about it. We're working closely with U of O PD and Eugene PD as well. So that's a big one that's coming up here pretty quick. And that is, I think, looking at my list here, most all of my updates, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
I know Brittany did.
Yeah, Brittany.
Oh yeah, going back to the body worn cameras, I can't believe it's already been a year, first of all, oh my gosh. But I was wondering, do you have any stats on like how many hours of video have been released to the public, and also how many hours have maybe been just reviewed internally?
That's a great question that I don't have the answer for you, but I could find out. I mean, that's just a matter of going and finding the public records requests and how many of those have been released and how many hours of video.
That would be excellent.
I don't know if I have any. Well, when you say hours of video that have been reviewed, so part of our review process, for example, is if every time an officer were to use force, or another example is like a vehicle pursuit, the supervisor that reviews all their police reports also reviews all the body cam footage.
All the video.
And when they say, if they say it's in policy, then the next level of review goes to the lieutenant. The lieutenant reviews all that video and the police reports as well, and they make a determination if their actions were in policy or not. So there is a tremendous amount of video that has been reviewed by the command staff. You know, it's kind of our internal accountability measures, if that answers your question. But to tell you the number of hours, I don't know, but they spend a lot of time in front of those screens watching video, which is good and bad, because I'd rather have some of them out on the street doing other things, but that's why it's there. It's an important thing.
Definitely. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I would be more curious to see the public records data anyway, just to
Sure.
hear about how
Yeah, we can get you that.
That'd be excellent. Thank you.
Carla, I think early on you had maybe a hand up, but it came down. Do you have the question?
I did, and then I remembered we talked about it at a previous meeting, and so I didn't need to ask it.
Okay, thank you. Eric.
Yeah, Chief, we can maybe talk about this offline, but as far as the community outreach tabling events, happy to help facilitate you holding those at any of the Willamine facilities, if that's of interest.
Awesome. Absolutely it is. And if you're the point of contact on that, or you want to email me somebody in your team that would be the point of contact, we can absolutely connect them with Lily and, you know, kind of align our efforts. And so we can be present as absolutely as much as we can.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Yes.
I just wanted to encourage the chief, you be careful out there in July when we have the international community here, because that's a world stage for craziness. So that's a dangerous time for all our officers. So
No, I appreciate that. It's a good point.
Any other questions? Then a lot going on for sure. Very good. Then what I want to do then is move on to the SPAC goals and see if we can make maybe a little headway here. Appreciated Eric and Terry being a subcommittee and put some thoughts together. And you should have a copy of that that was sent to you from Jessica. And it's really up to the committee as a whole. Joe Piscineri was not able to be here tonight. He looked through the goals and appreciated the work. And he wrote some thoughts and reflection. And I'm happy to share those with you. I forward what he sent to me as I asked him to email me his thoughts. And he's talked with the mayor and so they've kind of chimed in and they have some thoughts about the work that Terry and Eric have done. And so I would love for you to look at what what you received as subcommittee goals. And then if it's okay, can I have Jessica put on the screen for us to see what Mayor and Councilman Piscineri put together for us to add. I think they were trying to really honor the work that was done and then also give some thoughts. And so I want to just give you a moment to read through that. I do want to make a comment right off the bat, though, on number 1. It talks about building awareness and outreach, or I think maybe nope, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Concentrate on a strategic plan. And what the chief has said to us is that there's too many other priorities that are happening this year. It is a priority, but it will be tabled until next year. And so that likely would make sense for that to be a goal in the following year. And so I think we could table the number 1 that came from the mayor and Councilman Piscineri. But if you would look then at what they wrote for number 2, number 3, and the thoughts about number 4, either we can have, well, we certainly can have some discussion and see if we come to a resolution, or we can wait and kind of finalize this the next time that we meet, and with Joe being present for his being able to speak on it directly. It's hard for me to be able to speak for someone else. That's why I asked him to submit this in writing and for you to be able to read through it. But I won't really be able to answer his questions for him. And so that's part of the challenge. So I want you to look at it. I want you to give me some feedback and some thought. When we've made the screen smaller, I can't see everyone. So you'll just need to probably speak up and let me know what direction you would like to go. Do you like the combination of what has been done from Eric and Terry to what Joe has done? Any thoughts or comments? And go ahead and just speak. I actually can see one hand. Carla, go ahead.
So on number 4, that I think relates to number 3 on the proposed ones from the ad hoc committee, I think
Yeah.
relates to number 4 on the thing from Joe. I think my guess is that the suggestion is not that we go out there and we're like, hey, we represent the SPD. What do you think? And like I've said in previous meetings, I was on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And what we did is we didn't say that we represented the city, but we went out and we did other activities and then also just made it an available space for people to give feedback about bicycle and pedestrian issues or questions that they had. And then if we, based on the conversation, we could bring it back and give it to the city as part of a comment. And I think that's where number 3 is going. So I absolutely understand Joe's concern around I don't want to go out and say I'm part of SPD and I speak for them. But as a member of SPAC, I think if people know that I'm on this committee and they come to me with information, that I can then bring it back. So I think those are kind of 2 separate things.
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. I'm wondering if Joe also was thinking that potentially some of that could happen at the end of our meeting when we have kind of business from our, from our perspective of what's happening, whether it's in our neighborhoods or from the folks that we are in contact with. If we could share that at that time and represent what we are hearing. And then I thought in talking with Joe, he'd love to see us, like when the Springfield police are having coffee wherever at Willamette Lane somewhere, that potentially some of the SPAC is there and partnering with them in that and just being available to hear from folks as needed. Brittany.
Yeah, I appreciate what Carla was saying. I think that, I think for number 3, maybe what we're trying to get at is more targeted outreach for people. I think number 1 builds on that too. But like, for example, with the suggestion that we go, like for the communities I represent, like they would probably not participate in coming to an event where SPD is there. And that's just like kind of being honest. That's a generalization, right? But my whole position is kind of a generalization, but it's, but I think that there's different communities have different needs, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And people feel safer in different spaces. And I kind of heard Carla saying too, that there's a way in which people, again, not necessarily declaring that we're representing them, but people knowing our role and knowing that we do have a special position in liaising can help people want to talk with us. And so maybe there's a way, that was very long-winded, but maybe there's a way we can kind of make it more specific in the goal, so it's kind of clear what the intention is there. And yeah, why the outreach might need to look certain ways for different communities.
Yes, and will that also then be important discussion with Mary Bridget, again, finding out what we're actually able to do. Jenna.
Thanks. And I just want to apologize for camera off. I'm at a kid baseball game. So I was absolutely in alignment with you, Brittany. I think that my recommendation would be to clarify that no member speaks on behalf of the department, but rather could serve as a listening or an input avenue. So it's more of like a collection point that then we would bring back, rather than implying, liaison kind of implies two-way, and really it would be sort of a funnel in to help the community find those access points. So to Brittany's point, there may be folks that are more comfortable starting a conversation with her, at which point she could then help that warm handoff to the police department, so that it's like, hey, here is an issue that's come up within a group of individuals that has come to me. Let me help you or provide you the introduction to the appropriate party at the police department. So, and I apologize for not having the immediate language to offer, but that I think is probably the clarification point, is that no one on this committee, I mean, we're only SPAC when we're all together. So individual members are not actually,
Good
we're
point.
just citizens. So I think that the clarification point would just, again, be that input rather than that two-way communication. I think that may be what, and not speaking on his behalf, but what Councilor Pictionary's worry was.
Thank you. Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. I think the comments that Brittany and Jenna are sharing is pretty well, and I don't want to speak out of turn for Terry, but I think that's consistent with what we had in mind. You know, to the extent that the committee members are meant to be bringing information back from their various neighborhoods to share at these meetings, it's unclear to me how many folks within the neighborhoods that we live within actually know that we're in that role. Several of the committee members are at large. Jen and I are representing organizations. So how much of the community is actually being covered by the collective membership of the committee? So to the extent that we can, if it's acceptable within the council leadership structure, city organization, for us to be more of that point of contact on an individual basis, I think that would be helpful, just to raise awareness of SPAC overall. And then that kind of ties into the objective that's listed under goal number 2, the kind of thought there being, rather than just having these meetings, well, we've been doing them virtually now for quite a while, but to the extent that they were previously happening just at City Hall, that we could go to various satellite locations throughout the community as time and technological abilities allow. Maybe that would encourage more members of the community to actually participate and come to those meetings, just to further emphasize and enhance input opportunities for members of the community. So sort of a twofold approach there, on more of an individual basis, again, assuming that that's permissible, and then us going out to the public rather than them having to come to us.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak into this? I only see a part of the screen, so if you have your raised hand, I might not see it, so go ahead and just speak, please. Okay, a suggestion in where we go, how we move forward. And do we want to have the discussion with Mary Bridget first before trying to move too forward with this? So we're keeping in line. What is your suggestion on how we move forward? Yes, Eric.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to hear from Mary Bridget. It sounds like she had intended to share some guidance with us this evening. In addition to that, I'd also like to hear more from Councilor Pictionary about what is envisioned by a strategic plan for this committee, and making sure that effort is going to align with City Council's expectations of how this committee is functioning.
Thank you. Brittany.
Yeah, I think kind of similar to Eric's. I definitely think getting Mary Bridget's perspective will be really helpful. But I'm wondering too, is it possible maybe she could help us with the language? Like maybe some of the questions we can formulate, we can kind of share with her some of the struggles we're having around how to make it clear what our role is and what it isn't, and that can be even included in the goals. So there's kind of less grayness about it.
I think that's a really good suggestion. If she could see, our two different, goals here and give us some, some thoughts and some direction, that's actually, I think, really smart. Thank you for that. Jenna.
The other thing that I love, and I didn't start out with this, fantastic work to Terry
Yes.
and Eric. This was excellent and a fantastic running head start. I love the clarity that the objective on number 2 provides. And so I'm wondering if there's the possibility to sort of tease that out a little bit in the other 2 to help provide clarity. So maybe that's a question that Mary Bridget can help guide us through. For example, just high level, acting as a liaison, maybe there's an ownership piece in an objective that is along the lines of, ensuring that we're sharing out the SPAC agendas in advance. So I know that Jessica and the department does a fantastic job of posting and sharing, but maybe there is an onus on the committee members that there's an element of, here's what the committee is working on so that our communities become more familiar. I know that I personally have not done an exceptional job of sharing that out. And so I think perhaps that would raise awareness with those that might reach out to us that this is even a thing that we do.
Good point. Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments? Yes, Michael.
I like these, but I feel like I'm going to get my hand slapped by the city council or even the SPD. These recommendations were made through the survey to the Springfield Police Department and the city manager, not to SPAC. So if they want us, if the city council and the Springfield Police Department want us to be an outreach conduit, I have no problem with that. But I don't want to get ahead of myself and take that on until I get a request. And what I'm feeling from Joe is no. And I may be wrong, but that's my feeling. And so I would like to hear from council too, because, or even, the chief saying, oh yeah, I want to get you guys out there. I'm not sure everyone wants us doing this. And these recommendations, how it's sort of written, makes it sound like these were recommendations made in the survey to us, and they weren't recommendations made to SPAC. So, so for us to take those on, I think we need to be invited, and we need to be invited seriously to do that. So again, knowing our role and what our goal is should be defined.
Very good. Eric.
I appreciate Michael's comment in that regard. I think, the timing of us sitting down to draft these was immediately after the community survey results were shared with the committee. And so it was obviously in the fore of our mind, but completely valid point. I mean, we've not been asked to step into that role more formally as doing outreach. It's part of our initial discussion, Terry and I and Jessica, who was at the meeting, maybe started going down that path and somewhat in response to some comments from Chief Shear that they wanted to hold more public outreach events and be in the fore and be available to the community, and that to the extent that we are maybe a softer point of contact for some members of the community, that we could be at those events to help that process along. But certainly we don't want to overstep our purpose.
So I have, oh, yes, Jonathan, thank you. And then I think maybe Michael again. Jonathan.
I was going to say, the past few meetings I've been going to, I've been observing a lot since I'm relatively new on the committee. And the council certainly does, they have the power and the authority, and they are very, have strong ideas about what they want, what they don't want. But my understanding was that as a advisory committee for the police department, we'd be bringing the ideas and thoughts of the community. And I can talk to anybody in the community that I want. And If they know that I'm a part of this committee, then that may encourage them to talk to me more about these items that are specific to Springfield Police. I don't like the feeling that, you know, my ability to do that is going to be quashed by, you know, council members that have strong opinions about things. You know, I understand there's a place for everything. Everyone has a role, but I don't want to go into this feeling like we have to tread on eggshells when it comes to doing what we're going to do. You know, our time is valuable as everyone's is. And perhaps if we were able to create some type of email group or something that goes on the SPD's website saying, hey, this is your police advisory committee. If you have a question or concern, you're the people that you reach out to and talk to. And then that way we can convey messages that way. So we're not going to overstep any bounds and go out and misrepresent ourselves as representing the PD or the council. But I agree that we certainly need clear lines about what we are able to do and what we're not able to do. It just feels like we're kind of running around in circles. Like, we're going to do this, but we can't do that. We have to do it this way. And I understand that there is some procedures and the right way to do things. I'm not saying I want to go out and just go crazy and do what I want to do. But at the same time, we need to have clear objectives and some ways to bring these ideas forward.
Very good. Thank you, Jonathan. Michael, did you have your hand up again, or was it from the previous time?
Yeah, I'm real good at raising my hand. I forget to lower it.
Okay, good. That's okay. Thank you. I want to make sure that anyone else that has wanted to share has the opportunity. My suggestion is that we hear from Mary Bridget, that we hear from Joe Pictionary. I'm also more than welcome. I think it came up to hear from Chief as well on what would he find this advisory committee helpful to him and to the Springfield Police Department as well as a part of this conversation. Chief.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think this part of it, I don't know that I can speak unless I'm called upon, so I appreciate you calling me on this one. This is my opinion. I'm very much in alignment with what Jonathan said. I wouldn't expect people from SPAC to go out and present on behalf of the city or on behalf of SPD, because I don't think that's what your role is. But figuring out the best way that you can be the conduit for, another conduit for community members to share things with you for your consideration, and then you can essentially funnel them to me for consideration and discussion among the group at these regular meetings. So like Jonathan brought up, whether it's people want to reach out to some SPAC group via email or reach out to you as an individual and just tell you something, and then you can bring that back to the next SPAC meeting and discuss it and share it with us. I mean, I think that's extremely valuable. I mean, being a part of a committee like this it's a big time commitment, and you want to have your time be valuable, and I totally understand that. And I don't think it's reasonable to expect to ask committee members to, spend a bunch of additional time going out to all these community events and doing all this other stuff. If somebody wanted to do it, that would be amazing, and I would love that. But I don't think we can mandate you to do that, nor would I want to force somebody to do that. But anything you can do to bring voice of community back to us, I think would be the biggest benefit, frankly.
Thank you. Anyone else then want to speak into this or respond? I'm just jotting a couple of notes down. Okay. Again, then my suggestion is that we at our next meeting, that we would have a chance to listen to Joe, gain his thoughts, also listen to Mary Bridget, and maybe do a better job of formulating some concise goals that we think really would work well and support the Springfield Police Department, because that's what we're interested in doing. And so again, just so grateful for the work that's been done, and looking forward to the work that needs to be done. Michael.
I like that. I like it a lot since I'm one of the recipients who gets a lot of emails and things directed to me. When we presented to the city council, they were very clear, and I think to me in particular, that be careful that what our charge is. So I would like to recommend, just not hearing from Joe, but an invitation from the city council to do what I think we're headed in that direction. I really do. And if they don't want us heading in that direction, I think they need to be clear about it. And I think that takes more than Joe's conduit. So
Thank you. Yeah. Michael, you have probably the most history, and sometime I'd love for you to share with me. Has this been a challenge in the past, or why? What's so unique about it? What has changed that has feels like we're having a hard time getting on the same page? Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's historical about, and I think we've identified it, what the particular purpose is of this group. And, again, holding on to the history, as we make decisions. We were mothballed, and then the Springfield Police Department got into a little trouble, and we were pulled out, and I'm grateful we were. And I thought we did a good job handling a lot of feedback, but the feedback wasn't positive. And we were put out there, and we took a lot of it. So a lot of the feedback that we're going to get if we go solicit it isn't going to be always great feedback. So the problem is, what do we do when the feedback isn't always positive? And that puts us in a position. And so if we're going to do that, I certainly would want the support of the city council and the SPD. And if that isn't our charge, I mean, it's one thing, I got a homeowners association up here in Thurston Hills, and they tell me, they're breaking car windows, and I'm a conduit for that. And that's pretty easy stuff, but it's some of the hard stuff. And the community was very adept at getting my email address, and the volumes of stuff I got was just eye-opening. And so, so if we're going to place ourselves out there, we need to be aware of it. And if we are, we should have a conduit and support for that. Otherwise, I'm happy to show up to have coffee. And I'm happy to talk to you anytime, like during the week, and I go through a lot of history.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you, everyone, for the conversation, and we will come back to this again. How about now, let's take a moment and do some member information sharing. Again, this is an opportunity just to share what's going on that you're aware of in your neighborhood, to just give any thoughts or feedback at this time. Yes, Adam.
I'm not sure if Michael's hand is still up or not.
He's good at putting it up.
I just wanted to say thanks to the chief for, I've got kids in school, and obviously what happened last week, it did impact everybody, especially for parents throughout the nation. And appreciate Springfield SPD doing some media posts about, some information, you guys looking into your procedures, policies, putting in the IFACs in the vehicles. I mean, just makes me feel like, oh, okay, our local community police department is paying attention and wanting to make sure that this doesn't happen to our kids. Not that any of us can control any of it, but I just wanted to say I appreciate that, because when that happened, that's the first thing that popped in my head is, okay, what is Springfield doing? What kind of policies do they have? And I just appreciate that you were in the forefront trying to say we're in this, we're trying to make sure to protect everybody. Thank you.
Anyone else? Felt like I saw a hand go up in this. Oh, there it is. Sorry, Eric. Then you moved. Yes.
I've got bad news, good news. So we'll start with the bad news. We're continuing to have issues with car break-ins. So Michael, feel your pain on that if that's happening up in your neighborhood as well. But several of our trailheads continue to experience that, and we're doing the best we can to identify times of day, suspect vehicles, working closely with our partners at SPD to help get a handle on that. But just as general awareness, please encourage your friends, family members, associates to put their valuables away in their vehicles. Don't leave them visible. It's a really easy target for those individuals if they have the opportunity. Good news is Willamette Lane's making its way through our fiscal year budget process, and here in a few weeks we will have yet a second full-time park ranger to help us keep tabs on things. So just wanted to share that as well. Thanks.
Yay, good. Good. Anyone else? Jenna, and then we'll go to Jonathan.
I also just wanted to say thank you to the chief and just extend our sincerest gratitude on behalf of the district. Following last week's horrific events, obviously everyone had really heightened awareness, which increased sensitivities and calls and all of those things. And at every turn, the professionalism of your staff and the sensitivity to the parent nerves and the staff nerves was exceptional. And we're just incredibly thankful for that partnership, whether it is being sensitive to where police vehicles are parked to increase awareness that they're there. And then also in times where it's not necessarily directly related to school business, but they have a need to be in touch with an individual associated or connected with the building, and their sensitivity around the visibility there so that they don't create increased concern or panic. So on behalf of the district, both for our fantastic school resource officers, but across the board, this last week has just really underscored that partnership and how much we appreciate that.
Very good. Thank you. Jonathan.
I just wanted to, I don't know if it's too late to do some type of public relations or informational, hold on one second, sorry. Some type of informational message to just let people know with the World Games coming up. You know, we used to prepare for disasters. They wanted to have 2 weeks worth of supplies, you know, so the World Games is about 2 weeks. So encouraging people to make sure they have, like, if they need oxygen or refills, I mean, everything is going to be just tapped out. So it'll be a great time to, you know, talk about community preparedness as though we're preparing for a disaster where these resources are not going to be readily available, making sure folks have first aid kits within their home. So if something happens, I can tell you right now, the hospitals are at a critical point right now, and that's just on an everyday basis. If for some reason Riverbend had to handle 30 patients, you know, from heat exhaustion or whatever, it's going to put a huge, it's going to take the entire system is going to take a huge hit. So our community members need to try to be as self-reliant as they can. And that may not be something folks are thinking about as we're leading up into that. I encourage you to get a couple of extra cases of water and things like that. So when it goes to the shelves and those 3,000 visitors for 10 days have cleared the shelves out, we're not having folks that are needing assistance in their homes with the basic necessities.
Thank you, Jonathan. Michael.
Put my hand down. We had a couple car break-ins up here in the hills. That's about the extent to it. We had some, as Joe can tell you, some pesky pest removal salesmen who assured us that we were having problems with rats up here. And this week I started having problems with rats. So they either predicted the future or someone let some rats go. So I'm chasing them down.
Anyone else? Yes, Joe.
Thank you. I apologize immensely for showing up late, but I thought at least I would come in and see where you're at. So you're at the last part you're sharing with what's going on in our neighborhoods and whatnot. Yes, Michael, I agree. but there's also seems to be a uptick on people that are going door to door here in the Thurston Hills in regards to selling burglar alarms. And what they're doing is these individuals are going to the homes that have placarding that have burglar alarms, and they go, they check out, and they knock on the door and say, "Oh, I'm with this company. I need to adjust your alarm." And so the occasions of that are people saying, "Excuse me, no, our alarm is fine, and besides, we don't even have you." And so they're representatives are from burglar alarm companies, but I'm not sure whether I totally doubt if they are or not. But it's very suspicious, and it's got a lot of people on edge. And again, I wanted to express my desire, Chief, to look at some codification on some door-to-door sales and some parameters that will allow people to feel safe. But other than that, Mike, you're right. People having periodic rat problems up here, and it's because there's a lot of chickens up here and providing food for those rats. And so again, I think it's a citywide problem, not just Thurston Hills, and that's something else that we should look at to see whether our codes are up to date and current with what we're experiencing. That's it.
Chief, I just could tell you that the churches of Springfield are going to partner with the school district and have now for a number of years. And I think we're going to serve over 1,000 students with backpacks and some school supplies. And it's a really big project. I don't know if the Springfield Police Department has had much of a presence at that or not, but what a neat opportunity that would be. I will get you information. Jenna could also as well, because this is a part that she plays in this is significant as well. But it's just an incredible opportunity to serve so many of our families in Springfield. And it would be great to have the police department as a part of that, and the churches would love that and welcome that.
I appreciate that. And Councilor Pictionary actually reached out to me a few days ago and told me about that program, and we just talked about it this afternoon. So yeah, we absolutely want to be a part of that. We will absolutely have a presence there, and we'd love to learn more about it, to see just to learn more about the program and see in what capacity we could actually help out. But that sounds like a great opportunity.
There's 2 people in our church that are really giving a lot of leadership. Who should I have them reach out to?
Let's start with Lily Wick.
Okay. All right, I'll get that going, and they'll reach out, and we'll coordinate with that. So,
thank you.
Joe, is your hand back up?
Yeah, just
Yes.
briefly, Marcia was the one that is involved also on this end, and I was talking with her in regards to coordinating the SPD presence during that event. So
good. All right. Any other information or something that someone on the team wants to share? Okay. So we have, in at least my time, not met in July, and it is somewhat close to the 4th. Wondering if we would push our next meeting to the first Thursday evening of August. Is that acceptable to the group? And give me, it is to Joe. How are others feeling about that? Carlos is good. Adam's good. Okay, I think I'm seeing a general consensus that our next meeting will be in August. We are going to work to have Mary Bridget at that one. Jessica, that would be great. Joe, we really, if you could be there at that one, that would be helpful. So thank you. And we will continue our discussion at that meeting on our goals and move forward in that. Any final word that someone needs or wants for tonight?
well, unless God has different plans for me, I'll be there.
Okay. All right. Hey, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I'm going to close the meeting at 7:14. And again, just thank you for meeting with us on a beautiful evening. Have a great rest of your night and a good rest of the week and weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Barry. Bye, everybody.